So I gotta get my, so I guess I'm not ready. Call this meeting to order. This is the North Bend Planning Commission meeting for October 16th, 2023. First order of business is approval of minutes for August 21st. Has everyone had opportunity to review the minutes?
Yes.
Oh, hi, Joe.
Hello there.
So, okay, so you're up in that corner. Okay, John, sorry. Does anyone want to make a motion?
I move that we approve the minutes.
Okay. It was, the date was August 21st.
And move that we approve the minutes of August 21st as presented.
Second. Have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next order of business is. Thank you. Public hearing, case number 627-23-000013, planning amendment to the City of North Bend Comprehensive Plan to cross jurisdictional regulatory products of the Coos Bay Estuary Management Plan. And so we'll open the hearing for that. Today is October 16th, 2023. It is 7:02 p.m. My name is Brian Gold and I'm the Planning Commission Chairperson. Planning Commission will make a final decision on this application based on the complete record, including the testimony received at tonight's public hearing. These proceedings will be recorded. The hearing will be conducted in accordance with North Bend City Code and State Law ORS 197.797. Specifically, the staff will first present the staff report recommendation. The applicant will then have an opportunity to present a proposal and address any issues raised by the staff report and recommendation. For public testimony, I will first ask to hear from the people who would like to speak in favor of the proposal. I'll then ask for people who would like to have a neutral comments or questions about the proposal. Those in opposition to the proposal will have an opportunity to present testimony. City and staff may then present additional material and recommendations based on public testimony. The applicant will be given an opportunity to have the last word. After each presentation, I will ask for questions from the commission. For anyone wishing to speak, we are asking that you use the sign up sheet. Thank you. That has been provided. When called upon to speak, you must be recognized by me, the chairperson, and you must state your name and address for the public record. We ask that each speaker limit themselves to no more than 3 minutes. Please remember that all presentations will be timed. You'll be informed when your allotted time is expired. All speakers exceeding the time limit will be asked by the chair to immediately conclude his or her remarks. If you do not finish your presentation, be sure to provide a copy of your statement to the staff. Written testimony may also be offered and will be considered and made part of the record. In order to minimize repetitive testimony, organizations are encouraged to have only one person speak for the group, with other members of the organization standing to show their support. Each person may testify only once unless called back to the podium at the request of council member to respond to a question. Thank you for cooperation. Conflicts of interest, ex parte contacts. Commission is required to disclose any conflicts of interest or ex parte contacts that we have had with the proposal or applicant. That is, whether we have had any financial or other personal interest in the proposal, and whether we have spoken to anyone about the proposal outside of this hearing. Also, commissioners may only participate if they do so with undue bias, either for or against the application. Do any commissioners wish to make any disclosures?
No. Thank
you. Are there any challenges from the audience as to conflicts of interest? Ex parte content, okay. State law requires me to tell you the number of things before the beginning of the hearing. First, the applicable substantive criteria that apply to this application are contained in the written staff report and will be identified and discussed in the oral staff report, ORS 197.7975A. Second, your testimony, arguments, and evidence must be directed towards these criteria or other criteria in the comprehensive plan or development code that you believe apply to this application, ORS 197.7975B. Third, failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the decision maker or other people an opportunity to respond may preclude appeal of a decision on this application based on that issue 7975C. Finally, the applicant failure to raise constitutional or other issues relating to proposed conditions of approval with sufficient specificity to allow the city to respond to the issue precludes an action for damages in circuit court, ORS 197-7963B. Appeals from the Planning Commission are heard by City Council, North Bend City Code 1829-020. We'll now hear from the staff who will go over the staff report. Derek.
Commission, before you tonight is a proposal to recommend to City Council an amendment to the North Bend City Code or City, my apologies, City of North Bend Comprehensive Plan referencing the Coos Bay Estuary Management Plan. In your packets, the proposed language changing estuarine management segment and shoreline boundary map to Coos Bay Estuary Management Plan Parts 1 and 2. I do want to note that was a typo in my printed staff report, so please accept my apologies for that. By recommending approval, this amendment will bring into sync our development code and our comprehensive plan. It is important to note that we are not making changes to the Coos Bay Estuary Management Plan. We're simply seeking to amend a reference to the plan. In 2019, Coos County, in coordination with the University of Oregon, commissioned a revision to the CBEM as it to align the cities and county. The goal is to improve the plan's usability. It's now searchable, and to digitize maps and references within the plan. During this process, agency names were also updated and scrivener's errors from the original hand typed document were also corrected. In our comprehensive plan, there's a reference to an older map that is no longer utilized as it related to estuary and management. This amendment seeks to update this reference as code maintenance. During the review process, comments were solicited and the plan was made available on the Coos County Planning Department's website in December of 2022. Findings and revised products were reintroduced to councilors, planning commissioners, and the Board of Commissioners in informational work sessions at the Coos Bay City Hall, January 4th, 2023. A public open house which provided an opportunity to see hard copies of the digital maps and learn about the process going forward was held on January 7th, 2023 at the North Bend Community Center. A second presentation was made before the Partnership for Coastal Watersheds on January 10th, 2023. Also in January, Coos Bay Planning Commission and Coos Bay City Council held hearings to authorize legislative amendments regarding their portion of the CBEM. January 23rd, 2023, the Coos County Board of Commissioners moved to initiate the legislative process for comprehensive plan and zoning ordinance updates with the condition that the plan will not change any zoning districts, management unit designations. On January 12th, local, state, and federal and general stakeholders were asked to provide comments on the products presented. Based on requests for more time to comment, the comment period was extended until May 26, 2023, and the second public open house was hosted by the City of Coos Bay at Coos Bay City Hall on May 10th, 2023. This body heard comments in open public record in July of 2023 and motioned to continue the public hearing until this evening, during which the public was able to submit comments. Comments received during this time were emailed as they were received, and copies were distributed to you this evening. Staff sought general comments from DLCD, NOAA, the Confederated Tribes of Coos, Lower Umpqua, and Siuslaw Indian Tribal Council, Coquille Tribal Council, South Slough National Estuarine Reserve, and the Port of Coos Bay. CT Clusie in February of 2023 requested more time for expanded tribal and indigenous engagement to determine this with state regulatory and implementing agencies how to best include tribes and identify opportunities to utilize best available data and science for the CBEM inventories. 3 additional months were provided for comment, and a presentation was made to CT Clusie Tribal Council on April 20th of 2023. The Coquille Indian Tribe commented on February 17th, 2023 regarding specific definitions and naming conventions and request expanded tribal involvement in future phases. 3 additional months were made available for comments, and definitions such as pre-contact being replaced with prehistoric and gender-specific phrase to man was removed from the definition for natural resources in part 1 of the CBEM. NOAA Fisheries / U.S. Department of Commerce West Coast Region commented February 17th, 2023, that future phases involving a comprehensive revision would be a worthwhile endeavor, given how much the plan was developed prior to the Endangered Species Act listing of certain fish species in the Coos Bay estuary, and prior to designation of critical habitat of those species. On this phase, NOAA Fisheries requested amendments to the Coastal Estuary Atlas Map 5.1B, Species of Concern, to depict areas of designated critical habitat for the ESA listed species. They recommended revisiting the use of existing tide gates to designate or define head of tide, and therefore the furthest extent of the estuarian areas in Volume 2, Part 2, 2.3 and 3. Volume 2, Part 2, 6.22, drainage diversion, and 6.27, my apologies, 6.2.7, toxic materials, and recommended adding additional protective language for upland disposal of materials that do not pass sediment evaluation tests for contaminants. Volume 2, Part 1, number 4A, recommended considering additional time for state agencies to respond. Additional time for comment was provided, and modifications were made to map 5.1 to reflect areas of designated critical habitat for ESA listed species. Other requested amendments were deferred to future phases of this CBEMP update. DLCD recommended a slight modification to the development definition and policy number 5 to include dredging and filling as development. Recommended insertion of a section for floodplain guidelines in Section 6, dredge material disposal in coastal high hazard flood zones. Recommendations accommodated in the current, these recommendations were accommodated in the current drafts. Additions were also made to number 5, estuarine fill and removal, and number 6, fill and conservation, and natural estuarine management units. And number 29, restricting actions in beach and dune areas that are unsuitable for development to highlight requirements for local floodplain development permits. Public comments were made between May and tonight, which have been sent out and distributed this evening. They largely circle around the desire to see future phases incorporate expert advice in estuarian science to address things like climate change and sea level rise, removing the port as a co-manager from the plan, and including tribal governments in this process. The Coos County Planning Commission has recommended that the Port of Coos Bay and tribes be removed from the Joint Advisory Committee as, quote, neither of them is an appropriate regulatory agency to implement the Coos Bay Estuary Management Plan, end quote. This addresses a large portion of public comment on this matter, but does create a sticking point as outlined in some of the public comment that you've received. It is important to note that neither the tribal governments nor the port are being removed from the Citizens Advisory Committee, which is outlined in Section 2.4 and includes 1 member from each of the planning commissions, 1 member from the Port Authority, 2 members, 1 each from the local tribal governments, and 3 interested citizens, each appointed by the city councils and board of commissioners. For this committee, we will have the opportunity to appoint interested citizens either with technical expertise or who represent a group or organization with technical expertise, or members of the general public with no special interest as appropriate. As written, the Citizens Advisory Committee would coordinate through the respective planning directors of the jurisdictions, and then the planning directors would coordinate to enact specified changes, my apologies. Furthermore, in Section 2.6 outlines the soliciting of state and federal agency oversight on the possibility of potential plan amendments to ensure consistency throughout the estuary with state and federal guidelines. To further address public comment, I've included a draft resolution to be presented to council that commits to the cooperation of future CBEMP updates. Of course, this is pending funding, but I believe it is a good step in the right direction. As the plan is written, the county will take the lead for updating the document, as the city is only adopting by referencing this plan. This eases plan maintenance and maintains a singular plan for the estuary rather than 3 different plans. Because of this, the amendment before you tonight is not about the contents of the plan. It is simply to amend the reference in our comprehensive plan to in order to update and be consistent with the other jurisdictions. At this hearing, staff recommends the adoption of the proposed comprehensive plan amendment to update our references in relation to the Coos Bay Estuary Management Plan. If the commission wills it, you may approve the recommendation to City Council, continue the public hearing, or recommend denial to City Council. If you have questions that I can't answer, I have Meg Reed from DLCD online. That is what I've got.
Anyone have any questions? So I just finally found that section 2.1 that everybody's referring to in these letters, so I've been looking for that whole meeting, so. Yeah, so you're actually removing the port and the tribes. Oh, the tribe, I mean, right?
Correct. Correct. So in the original plan, it did not include the tribes. The consultant's recommendation was to include the tribes, but the Coos County Planning Commission determined that neither tribe has the authority, or neither organization or government has the authority to actually implement the plan. And so it makes more sense for them to be on the Citizens Advisory Committee.
Are they in favor of that, or are they mad?
CT Clusi wrote a letter that's included in the public comment before you, and they asked to be included in the plan. I haven't heard anything from the port.
So here, excuse me. We got Coos County, Coos Bay, North Bay. In 1984, we all agreed on the original Coos Bay Estuary Management Plan. And since then, the counties changed theirs, Coos Bay's changed theirs, they've changed theirs. So the purpose that we have here again is essentially pulling all those back together again in one document and one plan, rather than three separate plans, making some minor updates in wording, digitize the maps, make it a searchable database or searchable.
That is correct. And so it's important to note that North Bend didn't adopt a specific version of the plan. We have adopted it by reference. So if you look at our development code under the KBEM section, it refers you to the plan document. Whereas Coos Bay and Coos County both made changes to the original plan. And so, like you said, what this is to do is to sync all three jurisdictions up so there's one unified plan for the estuary.
Okay, so a few changes have been made since we last met 2 months ago.
No changes to the plan have been made. The GIS database was updated to include management units that were previously missing out of it, and that was the holdup at the last public hearing. We decided
So has Coos County approved this?
they're in the process of approving it. The planning commission has approved it with the recommended changes.
Has the city of Coos Bay approved this?
The Coos Bay is also in process.
Okay, so we're all in process at the same time.
That is correct.
Okay, so if we decide out of the blue, we want to make a change. Well, not out of the blue, if we decide we want to make a change for substantial reasons, what does that do to the version to the Coos County adopting this and city of Coos Bay adopting this? How does that change that? Does it have to go back to reconciliation like in Congress?
Right. It would have to go back and so we'd bring the recommended changes to Coos County. Coos County would take that before their planning commission. And so we basically restart the process over.
Likewise, if Coos County makes changes, that would need to go to Coos Bay and North Bend.
Correct.
And Coos Bay. They're in the process of recommending at this time, so it have their planning commissions have the hearings and are recommending to the commissioners and the city council. Have they got to that point?
They've gotten to the point of recommending to their legislative bodies.
So. And again, what we're talking about in this part that we call phase one is aligning all three of the agencies, all three of the districts, Coos County, Coos Bay, and North Bend, aligning them, making some minor changes in wording to make them all the same. Digitizing the maps, making searchable document,
Correct.
and that's all,
That is all at this point.
that's all.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I was getting to.
So something one, let's say. Coos County came along and said, we're gonna do something crazy that we consider crazy, then we'd still have to go back through North Bend.
Correct. Yeah. So we would be, it's going to be a three-pronged approach and they're going to update it at the county level. We're adopting it by reference, but yes, we would have input to any changes.
Cool.
Which is phase two, or at least.
It would just future phases.
Future
correct.
phases.
John, did you have any questions?
I do not have any questions.
Is there a primary applicant or are you the primary applicant?
The city of North Bend is primary applicant.
So we'll now hear from any other persons in support of the application. Is there anyone here that wishes to speak in favor of the application? Yes, are you, any of you? Oh, okay. So, okay, I got three. Oh, this is neutral. Oh, how cool is that? So Ashley, I don't know which way are you? Since you're first to, are you for or against or?
Like I have grievances with the plan.
Okay,
so-
we'll save you till, we'll do the. Ken, are you in favor or?
I'm in favor of it with certain.
So-
Under certain conditions, yes.
Since you're the only person in favor, how about you go first? You could come up and say who you are and where you live, and we'd be happy to hear from you.
My name's Ken Bonetti. I live at 1997 Oak Street in North Bend. I've been before the commission before. I've submitted testimony, written testimony. I'm in favor of a plan, but I'm not in favor of all aspects of it, and one in particular. And I'm not a technical expert. I'm speaking as a citizen here. Is the inclusion of the Port Authority, the Coos Bay Port Authority, in implementation and determination of the nature of the plan. And that to me represents a stark conflict of interest that they would be subject to the plan. They are the one they want to develop around the bay. So it doesn't make sense to include them in implementation. It would be like including a private utility into decision making of a public utilities commission, something like of that nature. So I really do want to see the Port of Coos Bay be subject to it. I'm also not in favor of them being part of the Citizens Committee. The Citizens Committee is stakeholders that don't have development plans, as I understand it. There are people that are concerned about the quality of the bay and its estuaries, and not applicants for development that would be impacted by the management plan. So I would like to see Coos Bay be subject to the plan, but not a party to the plan. And that's my main concern right now. I've outlined all my other concerns in previous testimony, and I'm more or less repeating what I said in my latest written testimony. So thank you for letting me speak. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Do we have any questions before you leave? Okay. So we have a neutral. So next. Opposition. No, opposition is before. So opposition. So Ashley, please come up and introduce yourself.
All right, well, greetings. My name is Ashley Oddicke. I'm a Coos Bay resident. I'm also a representative of Row Climate, a climate justice organization based in Southern Oregon with an office here in downtown Coos Bay. We've been participating on commenting on the Coos Bay Estuary Management Plan update process since the opportunity started earlier this year, because it is a critical step for ongoing planning for the mitigation and adaptations for climate change impacts and for protection of one of the largest estuaries in Oregon and its foundation of the community's economic and development and cultural practices. One area of deep concern that's already been mentioned tonight is the role of the Port of Coos Bay in the Kembe process. The Port of Coos Bay has a right, like state agencies and other districts, to have meaningful opportunity to express its concerns and request when a local government amends its comprehensive plan. Only the needs of the port need to be considered and accommodated as much as possible to satisfy that coordination requirement. Yet the amendments claim to make the port a co-manager of the Kembe, and the sections that was 2.1, 2.5, and figure 1 on pages 26, 29, and 30. Indeed, the plan amendments not only appeared to make the port a co-manager, it also proposes to have the port sit on the newly constituted steering committee, which is supposed to satisfy citizen involvement policy. Just so, for moving forward, there's no explanation for this, there's no description. And really, when we use the term management, co-management, what does that mean or could mean? There's no authority for the co-management of a local government's land use plans. So, and if the port has no statutory authority to co-manage a county land use plan, and the port's a regulated entity, it should not be directly involved in regulation. Also, earlier this year, the port was involved in the passing of HB 3382, or some called it the Port Exemption Bill, which we have seen that the port has already benefited from legislative actions that directly impact the regulation for the upcoming developmental proposals that the Kembe would be evaluating in the future. Also, just note, I know that mentioned tribal governments earlier in the staff report. Tribal governments are not stakeholders like the Port of Coos Bay. Tribal governments and their representatives must be acknowledged as sovereign nations, and legislative land use planning generally, and especially in estuary planning. The county and cities must adopt policies and binding agreements with the tribes to provide meaningful consultation regarding any plan amendments and any other developmental activities or applications. In addition, members of the tribe should have a seat on any of the committees. I know there's been mentions of citizens advisory. Also heard talks about ad hocs, technical advisory committees. The inclusion of the members of the Coquel Indian tribe and the Confederated Tribes of the Coos-Lar, Umpqua, and Siuslaw Indians is critical in each of these committees because that are created, because indigenous wisdom should be recognized equitably. Oh my gosh, words are hard right now. Alongside scientific wisdom, as the Hanas-Coos, Myluk-Coos, and Coquel peoples are the original stewards of the Coos Bay estuary and have been since time immemorial. Concerns and comments from tribal representatives should be uplifted and thoughtfully considered during update processes and ongoing management of the Kembe. We ask for North Bend to also make a commitment to a comprehensive update for phase 2, because as said earlier, phase 1 does not address the necessary shifts that are already happening in this community to adapt to climate adaptations. And just to wrap up here, I know Coos Bay has been putting forth a resolution that we just recommend North Bend to sign on and adopt as well. I don't believe that there's been any time-bound commitments for phase 2. And if there is an opportunity to put a time-bound commitment, it would just create reassurance for community members that it's already been a long process to get to this point. And so phase 2 needs to happen sooner than later. And we just ask for that commitment there. And we know that this is quite the process of undertaking, but we're still getting together. Still need to set the stage for that comprehensive update. So thank you for your time. Yeah, any questions for me?
So are you in favor of the changes that the county has made as far as removing the port and tribal representation?
I haven't seen the language that's been drafted by the county to say quite the stance. I know the county last week sent out it seemed like the first page of like what would have been the, you know, the language that they were gonna adopt, so. At this time, I haven't actually seen what those specific changes were made. So,
Bill? Ron?
No questions.
okay, thank you for your time.
Thank you. So now we'll hear from neutrals, Steve, Mr. Miller. You could say your name and address, please.
Steve Miller, 1556 North 20th Street in Coos Bay. Thank you for receiving my testimony on phase 1 of the Coos Bay Management Plan. I support your efforts to make the 40-year-old plan more usable, updating and digitizing the maps and names, regulations, and making this available to the public. This phase 1 update is important, but I urged North Bend to support a prompt start to the update of phase 2 as well. Phase 2 should at least include these benefits: collection of the best current scientific data, which will enhance reevaluation of management units, help identify and address emerging problems, and aid in the consideration of important community values relating to the estuary. The more comprehensive phase 2 process can also provide a dredge material disposal plan and include an estuary mitigation and restoration plan. As its name implies, the purpose of the Citizens Advisory Committee is to foster involvement of citizens in advising the management and update of the Estuary Management Plan. The Port of Coos Bay's strong development interest shown in project partnerships or other cooperating relationships with private business frequently work in opposition to many residents' interests and make its membership on the committee inappropriate. Similar concerns could apply to our port's standing in Oregon law to exercise management authority beyond that described for Oregon ports. To ensure the needs of the community are very broadly represented, the Citizens Advisory Committee could include members of the commercial and recreational fishing industry, the seafood industry, local business, tourism and recreation, both public and businesses, the scientific community, the conservation and environmental community, and at least 2 tribal members, one from each local tribal nation, and citizens at large who live in Coos Bay, North Bend, and the unincorporated county. A technical advisory committee would inform and advise management under the plan and guide scientific and policy changes to the plan during the phase 2 update. Members might include scientists from OIMB, state agencies, the Partnership for Coastal Watersheds, land use and policy experts, and natural resource managers. To ensure tribal sovereignty is respected, a section should outline how tribal engagement and consultation will be conducted in the ongoing management of the plan and future plan updates. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Any questions? John, any questions? All right, appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks.
And we do have one online to speak. Mike.
Mike Sard. Sarge.
Sargetakis.
Sargetakis, nailed it. Thank you. Should I go ahead?
Yes, sir. If you state your name and address, appreciate it.
Sure. Yeah, Mr. Payne, Chair Gould, Commissioners. My name is Mike Sargetakis. I'm a lawyer. I'm here tonight on behalf of Oregon Shores Conservation Coalition. My address is 3141 East Burnside Street, Portland, Oregon, 97214. My phone number is 503-233-8044, and my email is mike@crag.org. I want to note that Oregon Shores has submitted extensive written comments on this EMP revision process. I hope you all have had a chance to review those comments. I'll start out thanking Mr. Payne again for his comprehensive sort of procedural review of the plan process so far. That sort of short circuits a lot of what I was planning to talk about this evening. And I want to thank Mr. Benetti and Ms. Adeki for their comments as well. I'll sort of get straight to the point. My primary thing I wanted to talk about tonight was this co-manager language and our concern with referring to the port as co-manager. I'll refer to the CT Clusi's comment and the Coquille Tribe's comments for with regard to how the tribes wish to be included in the planning and implementation of this plan. But I also want to emphasize that the port is a regulated entity created by statute. So as a creature of statute, its powers are inherently limited by the legislature's grant. It's not a planning jurisdiction. It's a regulated entity for the purposes of land use planning. So it does not have authority to manage a comprehensive plan or its implementation under Oregon law. As a practical matter, a regulated entity shouldn't have the ability to control the regulations that are intended to mitigate its conduct, particularly as the port's exclusive interest is economic. Its goal is to develop the estuary for maximum economic output. Economic output is not a bad thing, but it would be foolish to not recognize that unmitigated pursuit of maximum economic output is directly in conflict with the needs of many other resource users, resources, and just the plain language of Goal 16. As a reminder, Goal 16 unequivocally requires that North Bend, Coos Bay, and Coos County protect and restore the unique environmental values of this estuary. So in line with what the county is committed to do, we're requesting that the city of North Bend edit the plan amendment language before it and remove references to the port as co-manager of the plan as the staff recommendation sets forth. I'll wrap by just saying that Oregon Shores is pleased to see that North Bend has a resolution in the packet which recognizes the importance of the phase 2 process and calls for convening a citizen advisory committee, technical advisory committee, and commits to seeking out funds to implementing the plan. Oregon Shores looks forward to working with all of you as this process continues into phase 2. And I'll just thank you all for your time this evening. I appreciate the complicated and weighty nature of this process. Appreciate all your work and all the staff work that's gone into implementing an effective, unified, and modernized plan and sets up North Bend for a successful phase 2 plan update. That's all I've got for you. I'm happy to answer any questions if you've got them.
Spot on, 3 minutes. Thank you. Well, I don't have any questions for them.
No.
No questions.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
You appreciate it. Did Meg read? Does she?
Meg is with DLCD.
Oh, okay.
Meg, did you have anything to add to anything that has been talked about this evening?
Good evening. No, not necessarily. I guess I'll just, reiterate that the new language that is proposed from Coos County does remove the port as the co-manager. They don't, as has been mentioned, the port does not have any regulatory authority to implement the Coos Bay Estuary Management Plan. So that language was clarified. So I think that addresses a lot of those outstanding concerns. And yeah, we've been really appreciative of all the efforts that gone on into this plan and are happy to see it move through this first phase and onto the second when funds are available. Thank you.
Thank you, Meg.
Thank you. So now we go back to any questions. Do you have any thing you wish to rebut?
I don't think so. I think that Meg addressed what I was going to mention. So,
Does anyone have any questions for Derek before we close the public hearing and open?
Oh, of course I do.
I have some too.
So Derek, we find before us this evening when we came to sit down, this is the first I've been able to see it.
yes, I got it this afternoon.
Yeah, I realize that. I know you're right on things. So the Coos County Planning Commission has recommended changes. This is what we were talking about earlier, recommended changes. How are those gonna flow in? And do we need to come back again to approve those? Here's my concern is if we want to get phase 1 done, we want to get it done, put a stake in it, and then move on so we can start doing important things. And the more changes we make at this point, the longer it's going to drag. I want to get done with it and then get to the important stuff.
So right now we have the opportunity to comment before it goes to the Board of Commissioners. So if there are any recommended changes, I think that now would be the time to make them. But, to your point, this is kind of what the county is recommended to do to move forward. This addresses a lot of public comment, as you've heard. And, it's not gonna have to come back before us unless more changes are made. In which case, then we'll have to, revisit this.
Why wouldn't they have to come back before us? If they haven't approved these?
This is their recommendation.
Right.
So the Board of Commissioners hasn't approved it yet,
Right.
but the Planning Commission has.
Okay.
And so Board of Commissioners, I believe, is next week. Ashley, is that correct?
Yeah, next Tuesday at 1:30.
She's on it.
Yeah, yeah.
And so they're gonna approve it next week, or not approve it. They're going to do a public hearing next week and may or may not approve it. But at this point, it does not need to come back before the Planning Commission if you make a recommendation tonight.
Okay, so.
Did that answer your
You're
question?
asking for includes this.
Correct.
Is there any let's say we adopt the county's language as recommended. Is there any 2-week notice or anything? I mean, is this like a significant change to the? I mean, we're not gonna, like public notice, I mean, it's a big change as far as the language.
To my knowledge, there's no additional notice required. There's a condition placed on it by the Planning Commission. And, at their public hearing. And so. Yeah, so no, to answer your question, no.
And so if we adopted the same language as what the county planning commission did, that's your recommendation to do that tonight.
So the county's taking the lead on the actual holding the plan. And so because they've made this recommended change by updating the reference to the KBEMP parts 1 and 2, we are thereby adopting this language. So it's not a separate, because that was the problem before, is each jurisdiction had adopted their plan, broken it out separately. And so now we're adopting one plan by reference. So whenever that plan is updated, our plan is automatically updated, if that makes sense.
No, because earlier we said that any changes had to come back through. I thought that was what Ron was discussing earlier.
So we would consult with it, but it's not going to have to come through a full amendment procedure again. So there will be a singular plan that we adopt by reference. So whenever that plan is updated, our plan is, equal to. So it reduces code maintenance. So then we don't have to do an amendment procedure every time. But the Planning Commission and, the Citizens Advisory Committee and the steering committee will all have input on any future amendments to the plan.
So just for fun, let's say the citizens let's say the county does something, or any of these bodies do something that the other two bodies don't like. Is the first step coming through the planning commission? Or is it go through the city council?
It'll be coming through the committees that are outlined in the plan. And so they'll be able to rein it in and get it more manageable. There's representation from every jurisdiction. There's citizen representation, there's travel representation, there's port representation. So everybody will have a voice in the room and can hopefully come to an agreement on what's best for the estuary using the best data and science.
Is there just one committee, or is there one for the county, one for the city of North Bend, and one for the city of Coos Bay?
There's one committee, one citizens advisory committee, and it includes representative from each of the planning commissions and these other groups that I mentioned.
And that's recommended. But not permanently implemented.
Correct.
That'll be part of phase 2.
So yeah, during the phase 2 updates, everything will be run through those committees.
So if we were to so let's say we get down to when we go into the executive portion of this, and we just say we want to adopt. Find that. Approve the recommendation of city council. We don't have to include the county language. It'll just be
Correct.
all right. That's what I was wondering. All right.
So we don't have to include the county.
It's included by updating our reference.
So you have to include the county.
Well, all we have to do is just say we approve the recommendation. We don't have to read the county portion. That's what I was trying to figure out. John or Joe?
I don't have any questions.
Okay. So we'll close the public hearing and open the deliberation decision portion. Gentlemen, what is your goal for this?
Well, I'm fine until the county messed me up. Honestly, I'm not real comfortable approving this with the change this late affecting not only the port but also the tribes. And we haven't had a chance to hear from them. But the rest of it, I don't have a problem with. I think that we met all the requirements to do the original phase one update, which was minor language changes, relining the three entities, digitizing searchable document. I see this as being substantially different than that. And I'm not comfortable moving it ahead without giving the board or the tribes a chance to read them.
So your recommendation, Ron, is to continue as opposed to deny?
I'm waiting for you guys to talk me out of it, so I'd like to hear discussion on that. At this point, my recommendation would be to continue, yes.
Joe?
Well, we do have comment from the tribe, Derek, or is that incorrect?
We have comment from one of the tribal entities. Yeah,
And where's that?
it should be in front of you.
Oh, I'm
And
sorry.
I believe it's the last page in that packet that I put out before you tonight.
So many pages.
Yeah.
I know. There's a lot of last minute information that came in.
It came out, yeah, right over, you know.
So the tribe wishes to increase relationship with partnership with North Bend. The tribe supports the language of the Quebec to specifically include the tribe. They want to be part of section 2.1, but the county's removing them. So I would. This was written. Well, this was written. This was written on 13th and the county made their changes on 24th. No. October 5th.
Made the changes on the
Yeah, the 5th, so they did this after. the changes. So for me, it's so for the, last 2 months that we've been reading this, everybody's been like, adopt it with this part 2 right now, and it seems like our goal has been to just adopt it and get it started, and we haven't been able to get it started until we adopt it. And this is the first time that everybody's not happy with it. I mean, nobody's been happy with it, but now they want to make changes, substantive changes. So I don't know. John, what do you think, John?
I would have to agree with you on that one.
But it just seems like everybody is not happy.
Nope.
this letter from the tribe. The way I read this, they haven't read
That's my
this
feeling.
from the county.
That's my feeling too. That doesn't, yeah, because they want to be included in section 2.1 of the county. So it would seem to me they would be hostile towards.
Well, they are. Am I reading this wrong, Derek? But it does say that the tribes will be included in 2.1.
And they're included in 2.4,
Okay.
but they were removed from 2.1. 2.1 is the plan implementation section. And so-
The red is changed, right?
Well, we can't. Yeah.
It's all.
Yeah, it's all red. Our printer's going.
Mine's not.
Well, actually. But, Joe, what do you think?
Well, I mean. So is that's what, I guess, is the black what they want and the red is what's, because that's proposed changes and it literally says the. Management agreement between Coos County, the cities of North Bend and Coos Bay, the Coquille Indian Tribe Council, and the Confederated Tribes of Coos, Lower Umpqua, and Saysaw Indians Tribal Council. And the Oregon International Port of Coos Bay will assure maintenance of a coordinated intergovernmental estuary plan. Coos County will assume the lead role for maintaining the Coos Bay Estuary Plan. The cities, tribes, and port will co-manage the plan with the county through a joint steering committee. All proposed plan amendments and or updates shall be reviewed by the joint steering committee, who shall make recommendations to the county and city planning commissions to initiate required legislative amendment adoption process. So I guess that sounds like there's included. I might be reading that wrong. Completely wrong. Or understanding that wrong.
So is that the first paragraph?
It'd be the second one. So the first one is original language. The second one's proposed changes. On the back page of it.
We're on the back page.
Where the county is making changes. So that's where I guess I'm just trying to help you guys understand,
Yeah, no.
unless I'm understanding it correctly.
This is.
As far as the tribe goes. And their letter.
All right, so Joe, tell me again which paragraph you're reading and the specific part where you think that the tribes are included.
Under proposed changes by the consultant.
Okay. That's proposed by the consultant. But that's not what the Coos County Planning Commission approved.
Is that further down there?
That was proposed and then was modified.
Oh, okay, that's why I was asking about it. So it's basically just eliminating all that then.
But there's still there's still statewide policy, goal 18, which still requires like some form of coordination with tribes no matter what, so.
Right.
And like the term, and I think like where some people have come up with that comment about the, you know, those two entities and the co-management roles, just like the fact that co-management's not being defined in that section. So it just opens up a wide open door of like how that co-management could be between the, you know, either tribal entities or port entities, so. Sorry.
Meg, did you have a comment?
Yeah, thanks, Derek. I just wanted to say that the fix is really just to make the legal authorities clear. So the removal of the tribes in the point from 2.1 is just like reflecting the reality of the legal authority of the plan. Like only Coos County and the cities of North Bend and Coos Bay have the authority to change or implement the Coos Bay Estuary Management Plan. And then those that could influence how it can be implemented or changed would be then reflected in the joint steering committee, which is section 2.4. So the change that the planning commission has suggested to make is just a reflection of the legal authorities of those entities.
They can't participate regardless of whether or not they want to or not. They're not allowed. In 2.1, they shouldn't have been in 2.1 to begin with. Is that correct? Meg?
Yes, exactly. It was a mistake in the beginning, in the original plan.
So we've gone for 40 years with a mistake that no one's caught.
I think it means that the port has never tried to make any changes to the plan.
So we really don't care we care what their opinion is, like what Ron is saying, but really it doesn't matter what their opinion is because they're not allowed to have an opinion in 2.1. Is that correct? All right. That's a nice way of saying it.
Who's on first?
Well, just it's what I see is she's kind of saying your reservations don't have, they're not, I mean, they're not important, but just
They don't have legal standing.
they don't have legal standing, so it doesn't matter if we care about them or not, they don't get a hug, so. So I'm clear now. So, does anybody want to make, so how I see it is if we, like Derek said, if you just, if we move to approve the motion, then it removes the 2.1 port and tribe stuff.
Hey, Brian, I'll make an emotion to make approval to the recommendation to the city council for case file number 627-23000013-PLNG. Based on the information provided by the applicant and the response and findings in the staff report and proposed final order.
You have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, or does anyone speak against that before I move on, since it's kind of a sticky one? Anyone wants to say no?
I'm not convinced.
Okay. All right, we'll go ahead and vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Is there any other business?
Other business,
Is there any public comment? Any
none signed up.
Commission comment? Okay. All right, we'll adjourn. Thank you, Meg, for helping.
Yes.
Thank you, Mary.
Yeah, thank you.
You're with the LCDC or
DLCD,
DLCD, yeah.
what is that?
Department of Land Conservation and Development.
Oh, okay, so state.
Yep.
Certified